In the last episode, we saw Chuckbuck sneak out of the home alone. She got caught by Hira, her friend who she met a year ago, and got dragged to home. And now there is something wrong with Chuckbuck's finger, so to cure her, her mom and dad decide to go to Hope Village. But to get entry, they need something valuable as a payment. To get something worthy, they decide to go to Dungeon Village, which is a monster's nest. Then they find Chuckbuck sleeping inside the bag. Now let's continue. Chuckbuck wakes up from her nap inside the bag and finds her mom and Gomdal in front of her. Her mom was clearly angry, but Chuckbuck couldn't read the atmosphere. She says "Tada," as if she popped out of the bag by some magic trick. This leads her to get smacked on the head, with hands over the head and sitting on her knees. She is being lectured by Gomdal. You already know monsters are outside when there are dark clouds. Do you not trust mom and dad? If it's like this, why don't you go live outside alone then? Gomdal says. Well, words are coming out of his mouth, but it's actually her mom who is scolding her. She can't talk, so she writes what to say on his hands and he says it out loud to Chuckbuck. I have a lot to say, but for now, you should go home with Chuckbuck. She walks towards her destination, which is Dungeon Village. But Chuckbuck grabs her mom and says that she wants to go with her. Gomdal tries to stop her, but she says she knows her mom is going somewhere dangerous and it's because of her. Don't go. Let's go back home together, she says. Her mom knows that's not an option, so she leaves, leaving them behind. Gomdal reassures her saying, you know how strong your mother is? She will be just fine. But Chuckbuck is feeling guilty because her mother is going somewhere dangerous because of her, just when they are about to head home. Gomdal has a stomach ache. He tells Chuckbuck to stay here. He will come back soon after taking a dump. Chuckbuck remembers the time when she was in the dark alone, surrounded by monsters. She is worried about her mother, so she decides to go after her, as if it would help her in any way. Chuckbuck's mom is surrounded by monsters, but they don't seem to mind her and she keeps moving. She feels a little guilty about leaving without explaining and hitting her daughter, but she reassures herself by telling herself that she need to learn what she did wrong and learn from them. Just then, her attention is attracted towards a cardboard box behind her. All the monsters are looking at the box as well. She realizes what is happening and who is inside the box. It's Chuckbuck. She tries to imitate the voice of the monsters, then speaks in human language. All the monsters jump on her. But in the next moment, only the ripped box is there. Chuckbuck's mom used her whip to grab Chuckbuck. She carries her and runs on top of the monsters while getting rid of the ones that get in her way. But she can't keep this up forever, and the amount of monsters are endless. Just then, Chuckbuck points towards the sky. The clouds are moving and the sky is clearing. It's dangerous for monsters to be in sunlight, but so is for Chuckbuck's mom. She can't go inside the buildings because it's full of monsters. So she decides to go straight to the dungeon. Just then, a monster injures her from behind. She counters, but the monster is unexpectedly fast and avoids the attacks, and attacks again from its large and sharp claws. Just then, an axe hits the monster's head and it falls dead on the spot. Chuckbuck's mom looks behind, but she doesn't have the luxury to stand around and think about where the axe came from. So she enters the dungeon. Gomdal just reached the front of the dungeon's entrance and saw Chuckbuck and her mom enter the nest of monsters. He belittles himself for not looking after Chuckbuck and stopping her from going after her mother. Just then, the axe thrown is retrieved by Hira, and she confronts Gomdal. Gomdal asks, who is she? But she just starts beating him. Inside the dungeon, Chuckbuck's mom is asking her various questions. Why did you follow me? I told you it will be dangerous outside. I told you to be with Daddy. You are not even listening. You know how much I worry about you. If you do this again, you will be in big trouble. Then, Chuckbuck tells her why she did everything. She tells her that she was scared. She was worried. Although they don't tell her, she knows how much they suffer to take care of her. So when they get hurt, she wants to make them feel better. Her mom hugs her, thinking how stupid she is to worry about her. Chuck Buck's mom hides her inside her clothes and tries to find a safe place. Everything was going well when a monster that is covered with hair comes close to her. She tries to be calm and not to provoke the monster. Just then, something very unexpected happens. The monster says, "What a useless effort." She turns around, but the monster is not there anymore. This leaves her surprised. How is it possible for it to vanish so quickly? But she can't afford to stand around, so she quickly gets back to moving. Just then, a giant hand that is few meters tall emerges in front of her. She jumps backwards. The giant hand slams where she was a second ago. It grabs few monsters. She realized that it's the master of the dungeon and starts running. A second hand emerges and follows her trail. This time she couldn't escape. Chuck Buck got separated from her mom. Her mom is struggling in the grip of the dungeon master. She tells Chuck Buck to run. Chuck Buck realizes she can't help her mom right now and will only get in her way, so she listens to her mom and runs. In the grip of the giant arm of the dungeon master, every effort to escape proves to be useless. Then she gathers her strength in her right hand. Her claws grow bigger. They start to glow red. She slashes the dungeon master with her strengthened claws. The dungeon master screams in pain and lets go of her and the other monsters. Her arm starts to ache. It seems this is not a power she can use often. Since Chuck Buck got separated from her, she runs straight to look for her. Back where the master has dropped the monsters, a monster with white long hair emerges saying, "Baby, where are you?" She is the dungeon master. Here Chuck Buck is running, and behind her are a group of monsters chasing her. Just then she falls and a monster lunges forward with its mouth with sharp and long teeth wide open. But another monster that is bigger and stronger stops it and kills it. Other monsters are also scared of this monster. It makes fallen Chuck Buck stand up again and encourages her to run again. But she is terrified and frozen by fear. She is so scared that she peed in her pants. The monster senses that Chuck Buck has lost her will to run and opens its mouth to feast on her. Just then a familiar smell enters its nose. It recognizes the smell and is frightened. Other monsters have a similar reaction to the smell. They all flee the scene. Chuck Buck wonders why they left. Just then, the same smell enters her nose as well. It's bad enough that she covers her nostrils. In the next moment, something hits her back and she fell. From her clothes, the candy that she found when she sneaked out of her home comes out. From the darkness, a monster that looks like a young boy comes out. Chuck Buck's first reaction is not to flee, but rather to grab the candies that dropped in front of her. Unfortunately, it has already caught the monster's attention. Before she can grab the candies, they are caught by the young boy. Chuck Buck is surprised and looks back. It seems the monster has the ability to stretch its arms quite far, and that is how it caught the candies. It looks at the candies with a curious gaze. Chuck Buck asks him to give the candies back, since it's for her mom and dad. The young boy sniffs the candy, then takes a look at Chuck Buck, then puts the candies in his mouth. From Chuck Buck's reaction and facial expressions, you would think that it's the end of the world now that her candies are gone. She recalls the effort she had to put and suffering she had to endure to find those candies. The boy just put the candy in his mouth and hasn't even started chewing them, but Chuck Buck punches him in the face. The candies comes flying out of his mouth. With this, a long and furious battle starts between these two with the candies on the line. But because Chuck Buck has some special attacks like Chuck Buck Punch Combo and Chuck Buck Bite, she comes out victorious. The poor boy runs off crying and empty-handed. He just wanted to play. But here she beat him up over some candies. Chuck Buck runs into some monsters again, but this time they are not attacking her and are afraid of her. She sneezes, and all monsters run away from her. Chuck Buck recalled the time all the monsters fled when the monster that has the appearance of the little boy showed up. It seems monsters are afraid of the odor his body emits. Then she has an idea. If all the monsters flee from her, then now she can save her mom. So she starts her search for her mom. But then, something grabs her from behind. She turns around to look. There was a man and a woman standing there, and they weren't human. They were similar to her mom. Monsters, but they still had their wills intact. The woman mentions, "This is the child of the dungeon master," because she has the smell of the dungeon master. But then they took a look at Chukbuk's face. The man points out that she is a human. The woman says she probably had a close contact with the dungeon master's child. That is why she smells like him. Chukbuk is shaking and is in fear. They both wonder how did she get here, then decide to take her with them. The woman mentions that now they have a snack. Their intention doesn't seem to be good. Chukbuk then asks them to let her go, because she has to find her mom. The woman says, if it's like this then, she has no choice. She will be Chukbuk's mommy. Chukbuk politely refuses. The woman talks as if she is already her mom, and teases her about talking back to her mom. Chukbuk is confused and surprised. The man says that they should give her to their father as a nutritional snack. The woman refuses, saying she is hers, and to let her eat at least an arm. The man reminds her they are here so that their father can eat the dungeon master and increase his strength. But because they will bring such a rare delicacy to father, they can probably ask for an arm or two. He says this while drolling. Chukbuk gets chills and is frightened. Oddly, she can understand their conversation and realizes she is about to be eaten. She wants to be with her mommy. She then remembers how her mom got captured and how she didn't give up in that situation and told her to flee for her safety. Chukbuk decides to do her best before giving up. She then attempts to distract them by calling her mom out. They look at the direction she intended. Then Chukbuk runs off. The man mentions she is fast for her age, but the woman finds this useless effort to survive cute. They both follow her. Then Chukbuk comes across a group of monsters, but they don't harm her because she has the scent of the dungeon master's baby. The pursuers realize that the girl is clever. However, this is useless. They both bring down monsters with a single attack. The woman has the ability to extend the two whips on her head, and at the end there are pincers, and the man has a blade on his right forearm. Chukbuk takes a look behind her and realizes she will be in great danger if she didn't find her mom quickly. Her plan to use monsters as a stepping stone works a little because they are slowed down a bit. But it won't be for long. The woman then extends one of her pincer whips. Chukbuk avoids it by falling on the ground. Whether it was luck or skill is unclear, but she just avoided her death, that much is clear. And so she managed to get out of their hands for now. In the darkness behind a pillar, she is trying to hide. She cries while saying she wants to see Mom, Dad, and Hira. The man says to not worry because they will be her family, and now that they are done playing, she has to come with them. He extends his hand to catch her. Chukbuk is frightened. She just wants to go home. She slaps his hands away. The man notices that. His hand is cut by something. Just a second later, he feels incredible amount of pain in his head coming from his arm that was slashed. He screams in agony and asks Chukbuk what she has done to him. Chukbuk looks at her finger and there is a black needle-like nail on her finger. The finger, which was previously just blue, now possesses powers similar to her mom. Thank you for watching this video till the end. I make manhwa and manga recaps, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't. If you have any suggestion that can make the video quality better, be sure to let me know in the comments. And I am going to post more often from now on to make up for the videos being short.